We should start in about 1 more minute.
Okay.
Welcome everyone, start in 1 more minute. I think we can start now. Hello everyone and good afternoon. My name is Eniolorunda and I am a manager at Endeavor Nigeria. And today we're here for our journey to scale. And I'm here with a conversation with Tosin Eniolorunda, co-founder and CEO of MoneyPoint. And we would be discussing what it takes to build in a highly competitive market. I'm going to just start off by talking a little bit about the work we do at Endeavor and why we're here today. Endeavor is the leading global community of by and for high impact entrepreneurs. What we basically focus on doing is to ensure that we can support the fastest growing entrepreneurs globally to dream bigger, scale faster, and pay it forward. Today, Endeavor is in about 42 markets globally, and in total, we have over 2,400 entrepreneurs who are leading over 1,000 companies. In Nigeria specifically, we have 35 high-impact entrepreneurs and lead 16 companies. In 2022, our over 2,000 entrepreneurs had an annual revenue of $50 billion. Now, one of the big things about Endeavor is that we focus on jobs, especially around like the impact. And totally, our Endeavor companies have created over 4 million jobs. And we also have our Catalyst Fund, which is our investment fund that we use to invest in the companies that are within our portfolio. And today our AUM is over $500 million. As an Endeavor entrepreneur, there are 4 key things that we do to provide support. Mentorship. So through our mentorship network, we have experts who are leading the biggest telco companies, fintech companies, and really what they do is to provide mentorship advice to our entrepreneurs, both locally and globally. Second thing is leadership development. We've partnered with the biggest education institutions from Harvard to INSEAD to MIT to provide curated exec ed programs for our entrepreneurs. The third thing is also peer network. So through our over 2,000 entrepreneurs, we're able to give entrepreneurs an opportunity to speak with other entrepreneurs in other markets who are doing similar things to what you're doing and they can learn from. And so there's this cohort of peer learning that happens within the network. And the last thing is capital. We have investors who are part of the network who provide who co-invest with Endeavor, but even also provide investment advice. And then through our fund, the Endeavor Catalyst, we're able to also invest in companies that are within the network. As I mentioned earlier, we have 35 Endeavor entrepreneurs who are leading 16 companies, and Tosin is one of them. We have GB of Photowave, Tayo of Paga, Odun of Piggyvest, Wale and Tunde of Bendiz, and a few others. We're very, very thankful for our board members. We have Bolaji Balogun, Atado Peterside, Andrea Lee, Mitchell of InterSwitch, Suresh, and a few others as well. The work we do at Endeavor is very key. especially when it comes to our mentorship advice. We've also curated a strong list of mentors who have joined our mentor network to provide mentorship guidance and support to our endeavor entrepreneurs. And they range from the MDs of the banks to the MDs of the FMCGs, the MDs of the telcos, to even the consulting experts from Deloitte, KPMG, etc. Now today, as I mentioned earlier, we're talking about building a highly competitive market. And our guest speaker today is Tosin. I'm going to do a brief intro of him before we go on. So Tosin is a leading innovator in the African fintech space. He's very passionate about creating financial happiness and has a track record of groundbreaking contributions to financial technology in Africa. Tosin's vision is to build an impactful fintech platform that supports the dreams of millions of small business owners while generating annual revenues of more than $1 billion. In August 2023, MoneyPoint launched their personal banking product to further support the businesses that use their products by banking their customers and also employees. Through this product, individual users can get reliable cards and bank accounts to also make transfers and bill payments. Tosin programmed the first point of sale software for InterSwitch, on which the majority of POS terminals today are being run, and is currently revolutionizing payments for businesses in emerging markets through MoneyPoint, which processes over $12 billion monthly for businesses. Tosin is very well recognized. He has been recognized by several leading institutions, including the CBN, CB Insights, Endeavor, and also Payments, all in appreciation for the impact of his work to create innovative solutions. Tosin, alongside his co-founder, Felix, became Endeavor Entrepreneurs in June 2021. So just to add as well, during the course of the webinar, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box for Tosin. We'll be sure to gather them and access them as we go along. It's a 60-minute conversation, so we should be done by 2 p.m. West African time. We're also social, so feel free to share parts of the webinar that are exciting to you on social media, on Twitter and Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, etc. And so now I am going to kick it off and have this conversation with Tosin. So Tosin, I would like us to start this conversation just telling us a little bit about your early background. So, where'd you grow up? Where were you working before you started a MoneyPoint, and like, how did you get to where you are today?
Thanks, Mide. Hi, Endeavor team. Fantastic work you guys are doing. MoneyPoint and I and Felix are proud and always happy to be in the Endeavor team, in the Endeavor family. High impact, and well done to everybody, and everybody listening to. Thank you for joining, and hope I will be able to say one or two things that will inform, entertain, hopefully not annoy anybody, but thank you for joining. And directly answering the question, Midi, I was born in Lagos, but I grew up in Ibadan, and I'm the first of three kids that my parents had. I think I've always been an entrepreneur. I've always loved building, and I think the earliest memories that I've had building were, I think my mom didn't buy me too many toys growing up, so
you have to make your own toys.
So I had to start building my own toys. I saw something somewhere that people that had those kind of upbringing and have things to prove generally grow their adult lives, becoming potentially entrepreneurs. So I think the earliest memory of building was me building my own toy car with motors, with batteries, and from there progressing to building more complicated electronic devices, and from there progressing to building software solutions. While I was in secondary school, I was the JETS president, that's the Junior Engineer and Technicians and Scientists Club, where we went for competitions. And, I remember we built this water level sensor thing that you can use to pump water for your tank, when it goes low, things like that. And I also loved sciences generally. So I now went to IFE, that's Obafemi Awolowo University, to study mechanical engineering. And in mechanical engineering, people thought I was either an electronic engineering student or computer science, because I just preferred to build electronic or computer projects. So in school, I had a small consultancy business that was mostly about helping final year students do their final year projects. Because, in engineering generally, at the end of every year, you're supposed to have a thesis, and that thesis is supposed to have a practical project to follow it. And I was building that thing for them and essentially sponsored myself through school for that.
Oh, wow.
So that's my early stages of building. And I joined InterSwitch as a software engineer. It was mostly through a referral. And that was when InterSwitch, that was in 2009.
Okay.
And if you know InterSwitch in 2009, it was the hottest place. It's still a hot place.
I mean, it still is, but yes.
Yes. So I joined InterSwitch. It was the hottest place to work. I referral there. Somebody that I worked on their project kind of referred me into joining. Yeah. And I've always knew I was going to do this, to be fair. I always knew I was going to build something like MoneyPoint. Initially, I was thinking it was going to be like a hardware company. But over time, I refined it. It was going to be a software company.
Okay.
But InterSwitch was really interesting for some years. And kudos to InterSwitch that, gave some of us the platform to launch.
Yeah. Quite a few founders have come out of there.
Exactly. So, and that's how in 2015, I decided to launch. My reasoning then was that, I mean, if I fail, I will still have my CV and I can get a job. So
you had your backup.
Exactly. So, and I was married, and I had somebody I was dating my wife then, and I could see that we're going to get married I knew I was going to probably get married in like a year. And I wanted to start it before we get married, because it becomes harder when you're married. So, but also I was also maybe, I also sometimes at that time, I also felt maybe I was young. In retrospect, now it's not. But I also felt like I was young to start something. But sometimes you might be foolish. It can go anyway, but thankfully it went. So,
yes.
Yeah. So basically that's how my journey started, and that's how we started Team Apt. Initially, Team Apt was it's called Team Apt, right? Because we actually didn't know what to do. So
so you just said, let's just put two us together.
And let's name the team. So Apt is aptitude. So Apt team literally means intelligent team, like sharp team. And I was figured out that whatever we set our hands on, we'll make sure we excel at it.
Right.
And the first few years, we're actually building software solutions for banks, because because banks needed people to help them scale their digital banking. So we got our first project with Fidelity Bank. I'm thankful to some people in this industry, someone like Dejiolo, where, if you guys know him, I helped him with some of those projects that time. And we got projects in Access Bank, got projects in different banks. Most of them were digital banking automation projects. And then we now moved to building digital banking application for the bank. So essentially the bank's front end or back-end applications, they didn't have strong internal teams those days to develop this.
Right, so they would outsource it.
Yes, to us. So, and that's how we started in 2015. So I think the lesson, looking backward now, what that really did for us is allow us to deeply understand fintech. So it's almost as if like we had 4 years of internship, because this happened between 2015 and 2019.
Yeah.
And in that time, people know about TMAP, but like, what's TMAP? What does TMAP to do? Nobody really knows. And it wasn't also, the business model then wasn't, it's also not the best business model because it's a one-off revenue model. You do a lot of work. You will need to deploy engineering resources that are now extremely expensive for those projects, and you don't get paid on time. And so, and you all need to constantly modify those applications to work for the banks, because every bank, even if they are similar, the environments are different. So that basically led to it being really hard to scale. And the effort of that we're putting into it was not matching the returns, because we're actually putting a lot of efforts. We were even seeing some really great engineers, because people were like, this, hell no, this is really, really too stressful for me. So we decided that, okay, you know what? Let's go directly to our customers. Like I think we likened it to being farmers then, right? So likened it to being like, we're the farmers and the banks were the brand owners. They own the brand. So it's whoever eventually owns the customer that has the best leverage. And these people you can generally always backward integrate. And that's what the banks wanted to do. They were going to use us to get forward and now backward integrate. So in order to save ourselves, I think we should just go straight. And fortunately, we had most of the components. We had the product knowledge, we had the technical expertise, we had the grit, but we didn't have the funding, we didn't have the licenses. So in 2019, we took funding, our first funding from Quantum Capital, and got our first license from the central bank. And we, from there, pivoted to building directly for businesses. And luckily, that was probably some of the best, there was a window for you to come into the market. And
that was it.
Like the last window, people that came in after struggled, because that was the window that the current incumbents were really launching, including the likes of Flutterwave, Paystack, OPay, Kuda. It was that window. And almost after then, if you launch, you now have strong incumbents who know what they are doing. So we're fortunate enough to be one of the last entrants, in my own opinion, in that period. And let's say that thankfully we are today.
No, thanks for that. I think those sort of early stages are very important. But I mean, for you, since you've been building since, I mean, now I'm thinking, is it that, so if you're not building anything when you're a child, there's no future for you. There's no future for you as a father.
Yes. No, I mean, not really. I mean, I think founders can come from different perspectives.
Right.
You don't have to be a builder to be a founder. But of course, in your organization, there has to be a builder. It just means that this founder is a builder. There are also founders that are people organizers. There are founders that are financial gurus. There are founders that are sellers. There are founders that are marketers. It doesn't have to be, but all those skill sets need to be in the organization, but the founder doesn't have to necessarily be the builder. We know, but however, I must be very frank that it's good to have an understanding of how systems work for you to lead an organization. It's a rule of execution. It's a known rule of execution. You cannot make great decisions. You can't make strategic decisions in short term, mid term, and long term if you don't have a deep understanding of how things work. You don't have to be the one doing it, however. But strategic, you know how things work. You need to know the capabilities of your organization, how quickly some things can be launched. What are your moats? What are your strengths? And it helps when you understand how systems work to do that.
No, thanks for clarifying that. I pointed out also for those listening as well, that founders can come from anywhere as long as you sort of are able to build the right team together. One question I also wanted to ask, just because we're also talking about like building a competitive market. When you looked at the fintech markets, just like others will look at other markets, what do you look out for that helps you know like how to create your own niche? So, Nigeria is a highly competitive market, and obviously the more you expand to other markets, it then becomes more competitive. But what was the light bulb moment for you to know, okay, now this is my niche?
So I think the experience that we had building for the banks made us first of all know that we were going to build fintech solutions for directly to customers.
Mm-hmm.
So, and if you look at it fundamentally in fintech, there are just a few ways to make money.
Okay.
It's either you are doing payments where you are charging your customers for transactions, or you are giving loans. You are giving loans to customers and you are charging interest, or you are collecting deposits from customers and making money on those deposits and giving interest to customers,
right.
Or you are charging for some form of service, subscription revenue for providing for some financial services. It generally falls into one of those four categories. And since we knew we were going to do fintech, you knew that it's either a payment company, a loan company, you're a financial SaaS, or you are like a savings or treasury management company. It's always one of those four categories. The one that had a clear, obvious need was payments.
Okay.
So we knew it was going to be payments. Of all the payments, the one we knew that will have the most growth and the most traction was providing payments for businesses, because businesses needed it. Because they need it, that's the core of their business. So it's not paracetamol. It's not vitamin. It's a painkiller.
Right.
Yeah. Then when you now look at payments, it's generally online or offline. And online obviously then had Flutter Pay Stack. Offline then, of course, had my colleagues, but I could see that the market was still big enough for a lot of people. And we decided to launch payments online and offline and watched how the progress was looking like. And in the first few weeks and first few months, when the numbers started coming in, it was clear.
You were onto something.
Exactly. So, and start digging deep into the numbers and start modifying your strategies, putting more resources where it is due. And that's how we settled on the initial iteration of MoneyPoint, which is providing offline payments for businesses. Of course, we are evolving beyond that now, but that's how we settled on the first one.
No, thanks for sharing that. And I know you'd also touched around like some of the early challenges you had, which was, you didn't have capital at the time. But and there's a few people like listening that are also thinking about it, maybe it's an easy road. Can you share a little bit about some of, your own personal story around some challenges that you had faced and like how you were able to overcome it? So I know on the capital side, you were eventually able to get money, quantum. But what are some other key challenges that people may overlook, especially as a founder, and how are you able to overcome them?
Yeah, I mean, capital is a factor of production. You can't run a business without liquidity. So, and obviously, it's hard for somebody to believe in you without something. So, I think for people that don't have, rich uncles or rich friends, because if you have rich uncles and rich friends, you're probably not going to be asking me these questions. So for the rest of us that didn't have rich uncle and rich friends, your best bet is to put together your own first small capital, either some form of savings or whatever borrowings that you're going to have from friends and family, and begin to demonstrate the next level of growth for whoever can back you. If it is possible that you, in your market, if you're lucky, and in some markets, you probably don't even need to raise capital, to be honest. It's getting harder and harder by the day. Zoho, for example, did not raise capital. I don't know if they raised capital. Checkout.com for a long time didn't raise capital. You could say even Teamaps didn't raise capital initially. There are many companies. AppZone, for a long time, they didn't raise capital. Piggyvest, I'm not sure they raised major capital. VFD, they've not raised capital. So And all these guys, what they just do is master the art of bootstrapping. They get their initial first fund and put it into a product and get it to the market, make returns on it. As long as your returns is higher than the amounts that you're putting into the business, you make profits and you reinvest profit back into the business. Initially, your profits might not cover your fixed costs. Your fixed costs will be things like OPEXs, salaries, servers. But the capital that you have might give you enough runway for you to break even. And exactly. So essentially, the point is to get minimum capital raise. And by the way, that's how you manage to also keep equity in the company. That's how you manage. One of the things I'm proud of in the organization is the amount of equity that founders and staff still own in MoneyPoint. That's how you manage to, and because that's how you get money eventually. The way you actually get results and money at the end of the day is either you earn dividends, and your dividends is going to be with the ratio of the profits that is going to be proportional to your share in the of the company, or you sell your equity stake, and your equity stake is still the amount of stake you earn in the company. So being able to be very deliberate about the amount of money you bring in and focusing quickly on positive unit economics and some form of break even if it's not profitability, is kind of important. So what am I saying? You need to get the minimum money. So mine, for example, was my salary plus some side projects that we did. I did. So I did some side projects, got some money. That's how I was able to then put it together. It got tough at some time, I won't lie. I think I've publicly said it. I borrowed money from my wife. I've publicly said that before. We couldn't meet payroll, and we had to borrow money. Wow. So the summary of what I'm saying is that you need to be very deliberate. Get minimum money, put it into the business, make sure you get something, make some money out of it, try to strive towards positive unit economics and break even. Now, an investor will see that and see an upward trajectory, and they'll be happy to invest. At the end of the day, investors are looking for returns, okay? And that's true. And companies that grow almost will raise. Companies that grow will get people that will back them. If you say that you're going to do X and you manage to do that X, you will almost always raise. So, yeah. I hope that's helped. I would like to specific questions on how it can be done, but it can certainly be done. You'll have a lot of people that have done this before. I know the unfortunate thing is that it is not glamorous. It's not glamorous to be bootstrapping and to not raise capital. One of the best news that is still in the startup ecosystem today is still raising capital. And I think it's a shame, in my own opinion. I think it's a shame that the best news is still people raising capital. Yeah.
I think you all the congratulations.
Yes, it leads to, I think, in my own opinion, a messed up sense of what traction really is. Traction, in my opinion, is much more better metrics that are your leading variables, which are probably GTV, real GTV, not real GTV on a positive unit economics.
Right.
Those are far better metrics but it's not sexy. So.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at what's happening now, right, with the current market, with capital raise, like, founders are now being sort of forced, and even the whole ecosystem, right, is now sort of being forced to rethink that and the importance of traction. But yeah, wanted to also get your thoughts. See, one of the things I applaud, MoneyPoint, from the changing the name from TeamUp to MoneyPoint to how MoneyPoint is really now a household name, is really the marketing that you guys are doing. So how, can you share some tips on how you've been able to think through how to market MoneyPoint to the point where today there is nobody that you mention MoneyPoint to that does not know of MoneyPoint, which I'm sure you smile every time you see.
I still see people that do MoneyPoint though. So I'm kudos to the wonderful team that eventually joined us. Right. I should start with the first struggle that we had as TeamUp was the name. The name was abstract. People didn't know what it meant, and people could not remember it easily. So we struggled with that. The second thing we struggled with is what we did as Team Apps. The people generally remember companies that they can resonate with, knowing what they, and especially when that thing touches their daily lives, they remember those kind of companies. So the most popular companies are going to always be consumer companies.
Consumer, yeah.
Exactly. So I'm not sure a lot of people know BP, British Petroleum, or Saudi Aramco, but these are some of the most most capitalized companies in the world. But people know Meta, people know Facebook, people know Twitter, people know Netflix because they are consumer products. So I think that initially, because we did not have a product that was mainstream, neither to business nor consumer, it was mostly to enterprises. And secondly, the name, those are things that we initially struck. And thirdly, focus. We actually deliberately were quiet. And the reason was marketing is ridiculously expensive. It's maybe not ridiculous, but marketing is expensive. At least when you look at it from a from a cash perspective.
Cash flow, yeah.
Exactly. It's expensive. You could say that you are using that cash to build equity in your brand. But then again, the cash is expensive. So we deliberately did also focus on it being a bootstrapped company and trying to be really, lean. So those are the initial three major things that made Team Apps not have, a full brand name. So we didn't focus on it. Because of that, we didn't bring in the right team. And secondly, our product was not mainstream, so people did not resonate with it. And lastly, the name. So we didn't launch, and everything outside correcting as we changed strategy, because we became more business-like and more personal-like, then people began to know our product. So that changed. We changed the name to Money Point. So that changed. We brought in a fantastic team, and maybe I should publicly acknowledge some of our faces behind them. Didi's team, everybody that does all our photography and videography. Well done, guys. Everybody listening, well done. You can see now, well done. So, we brought in a fantastic team.
All right.
And then we now also put budget on it. Budget necessarily meant to be ridiculous. You just need to be, calculating.
Right.
Then the owned media is also now very important. And I think once people now begin to understand your story, know what you stand for, and use your product, loved the product they use, then they begin to now connect with the brand and understand what you do. So essentially, it's those four things. Product is something that's now consumer. The name change to something people can remember. Fantastic team, but put budget behind it at the end of the day. And tell your story. Your story needs to be something that people need to know you for something.
Right.
Like they need to know you for something. Like I think people know us today, maybe for reliability. I'm not sure. I think that's what people kind of know Money Point for. And the whole cashless thing also helped because at that point, some companies bubbled up as people that kind of, helped during the whole crisis. So, yeah.
That's true. Okay. Thanks for sharing that. So from marketing, I want to move to product and pricing, right? So when you think about competitive markets, any founder thinking about a business that's highly competitive has to think about how do they price the product. What advice do you have for people that, when they're developing their products, they're also trying to make revenue and think about their profit margins, but they're also trying to acquire customers? What are some insights that you have that you can share about like how people should think about pricing their products?
Yeah. So, I mean, first is differentiation. Like it's not good to be in a place where your product is not differentiated. And the only thing that can be differentiated is now pricing. And secondly is switching costs. And so those are things that can affect your pricing. So I want to assume that this question is about how can you maximize your pricing? Because
you cannot be running a failing business.
Because there's some other strategies that is about minimizing pricing to gain market share, kick out other people, and later increase your pricing. Of course, almost never are you able to increase your pricing. Almost never are you able to kick out everybody else. So let me ignore that strategy and look at it more.
Kicking everybody else.
Let me look at that as I want to compete, and as well as have healthy margins. Because of that, I want to have good pricing.
Right.
And that is the objective. It is majorly two things. The first one is differentiation and switching costs. Your product needs to be sufficiently differentiated in the market that there's a preference for it. And there are patterns to preferences. It might be functionality, it might be reliability, it might be brand. There are patterns to it. So you need to focus on making sure that your product is sufficiently differentiation. And there will be a reason why somebody prefers this product over that product. That way, the conversation is not going to be exclusively about pricing.
If the product pricing alone is not a good enough differentiator.
It's certainly not even a differentiator to me, in my own opinion. It's an output of differentiation. And so there's a third one, distribution. So your product needs to be differentiated such that if two of the similar products are in the market and you are in, say, maybe a store and you want to make a choice between, or maybe you're in a car park, you want to get a car, you want to make a choice between, should I buy Nissan or Toyota?
Right.
There should be a reason why you prefer Toyota. Some people say Toyota is reliable, it doesn't take a lot of fuel, it's easy to repair. Those are like product differentiators.
Right.
There has to be a reason why you would prefer, I don't know about detergents, but let me say Ariel or Overclean, right? There has to be those reasons.
Right.
So then the second thing is switching costs. You need to ensure that when your product is now in, the cost of switching is generally higher. Unfortunately, it's hard for some products to switch. Payment gateways have that natural, advantage but there are even techniques around that because the companies will need to reintegrate. But we know techniques around that. You just copy that API exactly. So, but you need to find a way to make sure that the switching cost is generally higher. So, for example, now, if you're using an accounting software, and if it's it is hard for a new company to switch accounting software because now they need to copy all their journals, all their historicals into a new software. It's a major project.
Right.
Then lastly is your branding. You can also create an impression in the minds of people. Oftentimes, your branding is often related to how your product behaves, but there are times that your branding can also enhance the perception of your product. An example is Apple.
Yes.
It works very well, right? The product works great. But so does Samsung, actually. Samsung also works fantastically well. But Apple has a far different differentiation in the minds of people. Have a far better branding in the minds of people that allow them to be able to charge a tax premium on top of that. Yeah. So these three factors are things that sorry?
So people do whatever to get an Apple phone.
Bro, like people hold an Apple device like this as a statement. So I think those three things are things that can be done to generally make sure that you can have good pricing and price better. But of course, if you are coming into a market, we could talk a lot about it, but I took this question from the perspective of you are in the market and you want to maximize your price. There are other ones like I'm in a market, I'm the new entrant into the market, and I want to do something into the market. There are other perspectives on pricing. And there is also the perspective of I don't care about everybody, I just want to dominate the market. But I could stop at just that first scope of I'm already in the market, I want to maximize my market.
No, but Tosin, it'd be great to hear your thoughts for people that are entering late. Like, what can they do?
All right. So, it's also, okay, so if I entry late into a market, so all those three things also need to be different. Products, first of all.
Right, of course.
Because changing just pricing to undercut competition, if you have aggressive competition, they will match you in pricing.
Right, especially who has more cash, right?
Exactly. For example, we will not lose any business to price. We there's a mutually assured destruction. If you reduce your price, we might not be the first to reduce the price. I will not even be the first to reduce the price. But there's a assured destruction that if you reduce your price, we'll match that price. It's not because of price that will lose a customer. So I think what is, however, important is to differentiate on products. That's the most powerful way. There has to be something that your customer actually really needs that this other platform does not have, and you minimize their switching costs. That's the best way in which you can get traction. So, because pricing is important. Pricing is what determines your gross margins and your sustainability. And it is the amount of negative you can take is related to the amount of runway that you have. So if you have massive runway, you can have some hits for a while, especially if your business model is about selling stock, and at that time you are valuing it as a growth stock. Then at that time you can take maybe pricing hits for a very long time. But in this current economy, in this current environment, that's barely a strategy again. So I will say that for new entrants that want to enter into a market, best strategy is going to always be differentiate on a product, differentiate on your brand, and get a market and make sure that the customer has something else that they would prefer or for your product over the other product.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. One thing I want to also touch on is, so like when I think about people that are like have mastered the art of reaching MSMEs, merchants, like MoneyPoint is at the point where you go to any supermarket, any restaurant, everywhere, you know, everybody has a MoneyPoint sort of POS terminal. And a lot of founders have struggled, right? We're trying to target those group of people. What insights can you share, like in your own journey to like getting MoneyPoint to the point where, you know, you mastered, you know, this merchant, and today, you know, all supermarkets, all, you know, restaurants have it? What insights, especially about that customer segment?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing, like I mentioned also, is product differentiation. You need to be known for something. MoneyPoint is known for being reliable. It's actually a better strategy to have inbounds than outbound sales. So a lot of the sales that we got were inbound sales. And I would say that we were also lucky to be prepared for the cashless crisis.
Right.
The cashless crisis actually tested a lot of organizations, and just a few organizations came out of it well. We did, and I think OPay also did on the consumer side. So the cashless time, like organizations struggled really hard to be able to process transactions reliably. And all the hard work we've been doing over the years to ensure reliable processing infrastructure that can scale. I can tell you that during that period, there were a lot of internal crises. We were fighting hard to ensure that all the systems remain stable, modifying things on the fly. Kudos to the technical team, if they are listening. Kudos to my co-founder. Kudos to the product teams. We're working very hard to ensure that things remain stable in that period. And I think that led to a good reputation in the market about what our product does. And this now led to a lot of inbound. And of course, we also have a good sales team that now capitalized on some of those that now capitalize on that demand. And from there, there's actually a flywheel effect to continue growth for it to now also be sustained in the going forward. So I think that's the basic explanation of what happened in that time.
I know, like really, really great work from you and the team on that. Just for the audience, if you have any questions in the conversation, please feel free to add them to the Q&A box. Tosin, I wanted to, so, you know, this year alone, MoneyPoint led, you know, Payday's seed round, you know, recently announced the acquisition of Kobo in Kenya, and now recently moved to personal banking through the consumer app. And also, you know, the debit card. Almost every day I see the ad of the debit card. In your own sense, right, as the visionary, what does the future look like for MoneyPoint?
Yeah, so I mean, our mission is to power dreams. business dreams and personal dreams. We want to help businesses achieve what they need to grow their businesses, from a storage for their money, to payments, to credits, to tools, and for consumers also, which are their business employees also. We want to have them ways to easily pay without force, and be able to also store their money, and eventually also get access to credit. So the intention is to continue on this growth, on this direction, and do it across multiple geographies.
Okay.
Across the line, we intend to acquire multiple capabilities, including business tools, including FX, capability, including accounting and bookkeeping.
Okay.
We can acquire some of these capabilities either by developing them internally or by acquisition. Also, we intend to also expand to more countries. There's a thesis for how we choose countries. We have to see a minimum level of traction in these countries, because MoneyPoint's product is a deep product, unlike remittances or Flutterwave, or like a Flutterwave, or unlike payment gateways, where you just need to get licenses and do touch integrations. MoneyPoint, on the other hand, requires
need a full presence.
Keep full presence, full team, the whole thing. So it needs to be worth it for us to be able to go in there and expand to that country. There's a minimum revenue expectation that we should be having, and we have penned some countries in mind. Of course, with the news about, we didn't intend to announce Kopo yet. We've not even formally announced it, but since it's already out, yes, we're working on Kenya. The deal, I've gotten approval from the Kenya Competition Authority. There are a few more documentation we need to put in place. We'll formally announce it. We also have some other countries that we're currently working on also. So in the next 5 years, you will see MoneyPoint in Nigeria being a foremost premium financial service provider for businesses and consumers. You will see us also doing the same in about minimum of 3 more countries. And we intend to be powering minimum of 10 million businesses and as much as 50 million consumers.
Oh, so that's really awesome. And just putting up and down when it comes to expansion, can you share, like, for others thinking about expanding to other markets, right? Because oftentimes there's that debate between going deeper, in your current market, or expanding. Can you share some challenges that you've experienced in expanding into new markets?
Yeah, I mean, every market is different. Their theses are mostly similar around the world, and it's the execution of this thesis that you now find differences in regulation, differences in pricing regimes, differences in people habits, differences in the economy. So it's important to think local. Essentially, it's important to think local. So you need to ensure that you have a very strong local presence, which means that have people in the organization who can make, in that local geography, who can make strategic and tactical decisions. The thesis, strategy is not a big deal, right? Strategy is something that you can figure out in a day, or maybe after a week of thinking, you know it. The hardest part is execution.
Execution of it, yeah.
Let me just drop it in case anybody's in the organization and say, "Oh, I'm a strategic thinker. I love ideas." Bro, that's cheap. The hardest part is being able to sink your teeth and do the grind of that product out. So essentially what this means is that figuring out what you want to do in these countries are usually straightforward. But being on the ground, being local, figuring out everything that the market is saying, the polls, the changes, customer acquisition, regulation, compliance. So essentially, if you're expanding to new countries, you need to be able to have such level of depth and in those countries. Now, over time, you begin to now see patterns. And those patterns that you now see will help as you now move to more countries, and you'll be able to get better at it because you know how to whenever you see different things. So my advice, of course, when you're moving to new countries, from based on the experience that I have so far, is be deeply local. It's not just a surface execution of go there, be deeply local. What else? Number 2 is behave like a local. We are foreign companies going to new countries.
Right.
You can be seen like a foreigner, even if the company is as welcoming as possible, countries as welcoming as possible.
That's welcoming.
You need to be the regulators will need to be comfortable with you. Government will need to be comfortable with you. People will need to see you like a local, but global presence. So those,
I guess you can't ignore the culture there as well.
Yes, you can't exactly. You can't ignore the culture there. So and that's important. And that also goes well with the think local. So what else? You need to also give freedom to the local teams for execution. I think it's probably a much more flexible model, maybe a little bit more expensive because there's going to be replication, but it's also a much more flexible and faster model because they can move and react in a faster manner. So flexibility in product development, in product decisions, and cool. So I think those are some of the thoughts around it.
Okay. No, thanks. I think we have about 9 more minutes. But I wanted to ask a question just around like teams. So I know like when you're coming in thinking about like competitive markets and even if you're in a market that is not as competitive, talent on its own is a major challenge, right? For African businesses. Even for those companies that are sort of number 1 or number 2 in the space are still struggling with talent, and then nothing about new entrants or whatever. Like, so I don't know if like what can you share in terms of like your story? Like what turning point was there with talent? What challenge did you face in your journey? From Money Point's perspective, and how did you think so? Because I think people are aware that there's a talent gap, but it's just trying to figure out. So how do you sort of unlock it, and like what for you has worked?
Bro, I'm still figuring that out, actually. So let me tell you what I know. However, it's a big problem. I don't know it's not being talked about enough. I don't even think that it's just funding that's the problem of startups. It's talent, because it's
Talent.
And Nigeria has a lot of people, but the problem is.
What do you think the problem is?
The problem is qualified, knowledgeable people. The density of those people in the population is low, and this has to do with the human capital development that we need to do in this country. And if this country is going to grow a lot more, we will need to invest more in that. People will need to study harder in universities and acquire the relevant skills, and there has to be industries that can train them. Right. So starting up, we were looking in Team Act as we're bootstrapping, because I and my co-founder were deeply technical.
Right.
And this allowed us to be able to, build a lot of those things ourselves. Up till today, I'm still directly involved in products. And this allowed us to also mentor younger guys who are very sharp.
Right.
So we didn't have to pay big top dollar for the experienced experts as we're scaling, because we figured it out ourselves with the younger people. And the advantage for the younger guys is that it became a fast track for their career. Because they were sharp, they worked with us, the organization grew, and they grew very quickly, and they became very capable, that they now have the capability of executives and senior guys that otherwise would have needed 20, 25 years in the industry to get to that level of capability. So essentially, a hack around this was only for people who are, who can get down dirty, is to mentor these guys and grow them yourself. So that's one hack around it. Number 2 is you recognize and acknowledge that you're in a global competition. It's not a Nigerian thing. You are going to be competing with people around the world. And what this means is, unfortunately, you need to pay like that. Unfortunately, you will need to pay this similar rates that an Amazon will going to pay. And the faster the big incumbents know this, the better it is for them. If you need a certain executive that can lead maybe some important, you might not find them in Nigeria, because if they're in Nigeria, Amazon is coming to pick them also. Microsoft is coming to poach them also. So acknowledging that for some of the senior executives that you need is, and unfortunately, I'm seeing, it's fortunately, but it's in this context, it's unfortunately, our leadership team is becoming more and more diverse, not by design.
Okay.
It is becoming more and more diverse. We have more and more non-Nigerians, white guys, not by design, but mostly because the talent, we recognize that what we're fighting for is a global talent. And if the person was Nigerian, the person is also being picked up also everywhere. So acknowledging that, and hiring and knowing that you have to be able to, unfortunately, it's very expensive, especially with the Naira rate right now. You're earning local,
yes,
you're paying global.
yes.
So the first one, like I said, is to be, if you're lucky enough to be technical, hire young, smart guys and mentor them into the organization. Secondly, is to recognize that if you have enough liquidity, recognize that it's going to be global. It's a global shortage and you need to pay like global counterparts. Thirdly will be that you need to just simply scale up your recruitment efforts. You need to treat recruitment like it's a factor of production, similar to product development. And this is one of the things that, I personally also learned late. You need to treat it like it's a factor of production and give it that same level of seriousness that you give to making sure that your servers are up. So I think those are the three major things with respect to, say, talent. It's a massive, massive problem. And the more you can do personally yourself as a founder, the better for you also.
And yeah, like you said, like the more conversation needs to happen around it. I think we're running really low on time. We have about a minute left. And we have a few questions that have come in. So Tosin, I don't know if you mind a few more minutes.
So, and the first one is, should I run them myself out? Should I just go through them?
Yes, feel free.
All right, the first one is about where I see money for the next 5 years. I think I've heard that. Does MoneyPoint partner and invest with? Kirsten says that, does MoneyPoint partner and invest with businesses that serves their interests, or they just build their own solutions
for everything? How do you think about partnerships?
We partner, certainly. We partner. But one thing about us is we're also fundamental. And obviously, we announced an investment in a company.
Right.
So there's a direction the organization is going. We think of partnership through an investment or an acquisition, or we build internally. So Kirsten, we do both. We invest or acquire, or we can build. So essentially those are three options. So we do all that, and you've already seen that in a lot of our announcements already. Hey Taju, hi Taju, how are you doing? So your question is, as a founder, how do you begin to change teams to respond efficiently to market or growth demand with a tight budget, bro?
So for folks with very tight budgets.
Yeah, that's the hard part. That's the hard part. So unfortunately, a lot of these things will rest on your head. Unfortunately, if you have a tight budget that you cannot manage to hire more people, you will still need to wear the generalist hat and do many of these things yourself, unfortunately. Or and your best bet is to also ensure that some of the guys in the organization right now are strong generalists, strong, sharp generalists. So essentially, you still need to use the resources that you have internally, you or some of the guys, to achieve your growth demands. If you cannot afford it, there's no other way. There's no other way. But if you can afford it, then of course you need to go and hire them. Unfortunately. So what Christopher says, what gaps do I think needs to be closed in Nigerian financial space. I'm thinking because based on the influence of Moniepoint and OP and other large fintechs, there's still an argument that the levels of financial exclusion is high in Nigeria. So the financial exclusion reason in Nigeria, I think in my own opinion, has to do with level of poverty in the country.
Does that mean it can't change?
No, it doesn't mean it can't change. But if somebody earns 1,000 naira a day or 500 naira a day,
okay,
what app do you expect the person to use for that? And 1,000 naira a day is 30K. So
right.
what app do you use? Let's say the person earns 500 naira. So we all know that anybody that earns a certain amount of money, you can't carry that money in cash. It's too inconvenient.
Right.
I'm not saying that that's the only reason, but I feel like that thing needs promotion. Unfortunately, it's political. So promotion, it needs promotion. That financial inclusion is the number one category when you look at Bill and Melinda that gets foundations questions for why people are financially excluded is poverty.
Poverty.
So I think that it's already very easy for people to open an account. We've released our own app now. All you need to do is have a smartphone, download the app. We're releasing methods in which if you don't have a smartphone, you can sign on also with your details. Fortunately, you don't need to only use BVN now, you can use NIN. So I'm thinking that Nigeria is getting high financial inclusion levels that are already possible. Like massive. Everywhere you go now, you have a point of sale agent that has.
That's true. Yes.
Everywhere. You have an easy way to download an app that is free, it doesn't charge you. Everything that is needed is already provided. People coming in to improve financial inclusion is based on mostly two levels: poverty level and to some level, education level. Those are the two major levels. So I think these are more macroeconomic issues. Yeah. Charles says that when resources are needed, what strategies would I recommend a business adopt to gain a foothold in the competitive market? So it's the same thing. So it's still be sharper than the others. The good thing is that bigger organizations find it harder to be more nimble as they become bigger. That's the good thing. So since you're just coming up, you still need to find a way to build a better product or something that your customers will prefer over the other one and hold on to it very tightly and find a way to scale it. That's still the major thing. And maybe the bigger companies will come and say, who the hell is this guy? Come and buy you out. Or and you don't care and you scale out of it. But seriously, the major way is to still differentiate in the market. Chibiki says that thanks for the intelligent words. Your question is how important is a co-founder and partner in starting a business, and how best do you choose one objectively?
So basically choosing your co-founder
is a hard journey. So you need a partner. And it's a bit like marriage. It's similar to the same things that you're going to consider in marrying somebody. You marry somebody that you have a good chemistry with. Chemistry in this case is that you guys understand each other. You marry a good person. That means that this person is not going to disappoint you or do bad things to you, and they are naturally good at heart. And you marry a capable person. That means there's something that this person can do and do potentially far better than you. Honestly, your co-founder relationship is almost going to be similar to your spouse's relationship. And those are the three major things to consider. Is this person a good person? Can I trust this person? If I am dying, will this person save me? Will this person talk ill behind my back? Number two is that this person, you have chemistry with the person, your communication is good, you balance out each other. You don't have to be the same, but you balance out each other nicely and you respect each other. And lastly will now be this person is capable and there's something that they can do very well. Now, you don't have to start with a co-founder. I actually didn't initially start with a co-founder. Sometimes co-founders can join you along the way. And it's sometimes even an easier way. Because actually just in marriage too, where there is dynamics, where we're both equal husband and wife, but sometimes we're more equal than others. You know what I mean? Like there's a head of the family. Oftentimes there's also the head of the startup. You cannot have two equal people. It's important for the dynamics.
Yes.
Yes. So Anonymous. Yeah.
Let me just go on through the question. So there's one more I want to check. Tim Lady has a question, and the person said, as a startup founder, how do you manage and balance the fear of your idea and trade strategy being replicated? So oftentimes, either as an investor or as another founder, people, founders are always worried about someone replicating their idea. But I think I already know where your answer is going.
Yeah. It's ideas are
That's the
cheap.
list of your worries.
That's the list of your worries. Trust me. Ideas are cheap. Like, trust me. Like, if you have one nice idea, I can first of all tell you that you're not the one that has it. Many people have that idea. But the person that's doing it is the person that can actually execute it. So I am not saying that you should not guide the ideas. For example, if you have a capable competition that have execution, then you don't want to give them the trigger for the idea for the execution. You at least want to be the first person to bring it out before they go and bring their own out. So, because they will bring it out. So that's the time I think you can worry about ideas. But if what you're talking to are maybe, just other startup founders, investors, I personally have not seen a place where an idea was stolen and I mean, it's possible, right? I mean, it's possible, but it's not common, and I will not worry too much about it. I will not worry too much about it.
All right. Okay. Now, Tosin, just to run, I guess, what final words do you have for everyone, especially aspiring founders, those in this space, and just generally about like the tech ecosystem in Nigeria? We're interested to get your thoughts on that.
Especially with the technical systems in Nigeria.
Tech ecosystem.
Okay. So what advice would I give to founders, especially with the technical system in Nigeria? The first thing is make sure that timing is important. Let's start with that. You can't it can't be bigger than time. What MoneyPoint is today, what other big fintechs are today, 10 years ago, even with the same capability and funding, will probably not happen. So timing is important. After timing, you need to have the right team, and you yourself need to be ready to work your ass out.
If you want to cash out.
It's not glamorous, trust me. It's not glamorous. It's glamorous, but inside it is a lot of work and headache. So you need to be ready for that. And you need to be able to find happiness in doing that, because sometimes you can find happiness in doing other things. And I personally feel that is the equalizer for everybody in life. We should all find happiness through what we do. Number 3 is make sure that you make the powers that be, regulators, governments, be okay with you. You don't want to fight. You don't want to fight bigger powers than you. And be aligned with what they are doing. Carry them along. Make sure they know what you're doing. Then Nigeria's macros is not in the best shape right now. We're hoping things will get better, but your best bet is just to be lucky enough or execute to outgrow the whole tanking macros. Things are hard outside right now. I think those are the 4 advices that I can give to everybody that wants to execute tech. Timing is important. Make sure that your powers that be, regulators and governments, are happy with you. 3 will be
having the team,
have a great team.
Happy.
And it's not trivial. You need to be ready to work your ass out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tosin, for the time, and thanks for sparing an extra 10 minutes. As for the audience, please feel free to share your takeaways on our social media platforms, and please feel free to tag us as well. There's the replay of Tosin's session is also on our YouTube page at Endeavor Nigeria. And Tosin, for people that have more questions, what's the best way they can reach you?
I can be reached on my email address. I'm going to drop it. It's Eniolorunda@moneypoints.com. Eniolorunda@moneypoints.com. Eniolorunda, my surname, T, my first name.
And thank you so much, Tosin. And thank you for everyone that joined. And thank you for staying with us for an extra 10 minutes. This has been a great session. And thanks, Tosin, again, and looking forward to seeing you soon. All right, bye.